So, I like to start just by giving you a little bit more background about me and my Rotary journey. So, I have been a member of the Westford Rotary Club for 37 years. But I tell people that my Rotary journey really started 47 years ago. So, 47 years ago, I was my high school's student of the month, along with a male student. And the Rotary Club, when I went to the meeting, I apologize, the dog's barking, so I'm going to move locations. Um, my Rotary Club said, to the male student, oh, when you grow up, you can become a Rotarian. And they kept talking to him about that. And then they said to me, oh, sorry, there's no women allowed in Rotary. And I looked at the Rotarian and I said, oh, I said, that'll change, and I'll be a Rotarian someday. And he laughed because he thought that was funny. And I said, no, I said, it'll change. I'll be a Rotarian. So I was 16 years old when that happened. And I know for a fact that the other gentleman that was with me never became a Rotarian. But 8 years after that, a woman by the name of Sylvia Whitlock actually sued Rotary International, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States, who ruled that women needed to be allowed in Rotary, and I joined 2 years later. So it's been, an interesting, journey. Rotary was a lot different when I joined 37 years ago than it is today. We are a lot more diverse, and your club is a perfect example of that. And I think, change is a good thing, not just, allowing women, but also the changes that Rotary International has made that has made your club possible because, and also technology, right? But 37 years ago, nobody would have ever dreamed that your club would exist today with, the vast, variety and location of everybody, and just the fact that you're a cause-based club. They didn't exist 37 years ago. So I'm excited to be here today. When I thought about, what I wanted my year to look like as far as, the message that I would deliver, I thought a lot about some of the messages that Rotary International presidents, have kind of made their theme for the year. And for me, I really thought that when I looked at the world today, what would be the best, message that I wanted to share? And for me, that was peace and conflict resolution. So, I was, very, like everyone else, very concerned about the way that, our world kind of looks today with different, you know, things going on politically and everything. So to start my year off, I had a friend of mine who is a Rotarian from Florida come up to do my installation as district governor. And the reason I had this specific friend come up is um, he's a past district governor who used to be in our district, but didn't become a district governor until he went to Florida. And he's a man of Jewish descent, and I'm an Arab woman. So I decided what a better way to start a year trying to deliver a message of peace than to have a Jewish man install an Arab woman as district governor. So that's the way that I started my year. And a couple of things that I'm trying to do to spread this message of peace includes I want to start a Rotary Action Group for Peace chapter in Massachusetts. There currently isn't one. And I say Massachusetts rather than just our district because it when you start a chapter, it can be members from any district. So we can have members from District 7930 and we can have members from the other bordering districts around us. There is already a work group for peace that was started by a couple of Rotarians that are actually not only from our district, but also from District 7930. So there was already a work group ongoing. And the way to, kind of get this Rotary Action Group for Peace off the ground and started is that we need to have a certain number of clubs in the district become, or in the area, become peace building clubs. And the way to do that is we need 2 members of the club to become members of the Rotary Action Group for Peace. And they do charge dues, but it's only $20 per year. So I already have about 6 or 7 clubs that have done that. So we're well on our way of getting started with that action group. The other thing that we are doing to promote peace, and this was approved by the district trustees last week, is the district is willing to pay for every club in the district to install a peace pole. Do you all know what a peace pole is? Because I can show a picture of it if you don't, if I have ability to share.
No, I know I don't, Penny. So if you could, that would.
Okay,
Let me
oh
make
yeah,
sure
you have to enable it.
let me do that. Host only. Oh, participants. You're all set.
All right, so let me just show you my, oh, wait a minute, hold on 1 second. It's not showing me the right windows. Bear with me 1 second. I just got to get back to the right window.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, here we go, I think. Well, as I get back to Zoom now, we should be okay. All right. Well, you can see the dogs. Can you see?
Yeah.
Is it showing the right window?
Yes, yes.
Beautiful.
For some reason, it's not showing me what you guys are seeing. So is there a peace pole there?
No, it's your
No, it's the dogs, huh?
the dogs
All right, hold on a second.
and your desktop.
My desktop. I share all the time and usually don't have a problem. I don't know why today. All right, share this window.
You need to open in your desktop what you want to.
Yeah, I did. Okay, so that I think it's there now. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is what a peace pole looks like. So it's a white pole, and it says, may peace prevail on earth," or may peace be on earth," depending on how the language is worded. But it comes in you can choose 8 different languages. And it allows you to choose you can see the whole list here of the different languages. So depending on where you want the pole to be installed and the languages that you would like to kind of highlight, you can get the pole customized. And then there's additional options. You can add a brass braille plate. You can add a unity flag. You can add a QR code that'll take you to like Rotary.org. What I'm recommending for most clubs is that they get the vinyl, like outdoor stickers that, have the Rotary logo and a, URL that'll take directly to your website or information. Even though this was originally started as a Rotary initiative, Rotary International won't let the company that makes the poles put the Rotary logo on the pole. So the individual clubs have to do that afterwards. If you get the 8-foot pole with the 8 languages, it costs $350. So the district will pay the $350 for your club, and you can install the pole anywhere you want. There's no restrictions as far as where you install it. So if your, club would like to do that, It's similar to what we did with the signs, although because you guys are virtual, we gave you, an allotment for marketing dollars instead of the signs. So, once your board decides if you'd like to have a peace poll, just let me know and we can kind of work that out. So, hopefully, at the end of the year, we'll have 45 peace polls throughout, the district. And, if you guys choose to put one internationally somewhere, that would be great too. I'll have to go visit it, but that's okay. So, but, we're looking forward to, really kind of, sending a message with the peace polls. I had the pleasure of going to a peace poll installation on Sunday. The Wachusett Rotary Club actually already had one on order. And they had a wonderful ceremony. They had someone who spoke each of the 8 different languages get up and, read the inscription on the pole in that language. So it was really a great ceremony. And there are quite a few people that came for the dedication. So the next thing that I'd like to just, talk to you guys about, I'm sure you guys have heard that we're in the process of merging with another district. We're calling it creating a district. So the district that we are going to create the new district with currently covers south of Boston, Cape Cod, and all of Rhode Island. So the new district will be a little over 100 clubs strong once we merge. I think the merger will be a good thing because, there's strengths and weaknesses in every district. And it's interesting how our strengths and weaknesses kind of are opposite of each other. So we have, a really strong, RILA, the Rotary Youth Leadership Award program. They have a, really strong membership committee. So, where we have, lacking, they've got strength, and the other way around. Financially, our district historically has been very strong financially. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why we've taken this initiative to, pay for the signs, pay for the peace polls. We have some money that we can spend down, basically, because we have more money than we need to go into the new district with. So, we are willing to take proposals for the special purpose fund to spend some of that money down. And if the purpose of the special purpose fund for the district is that it's supposed to benefit, the district at large, right? So if you can, come up with a proposal or an idea that you think will benefit, the district and Rotary, feel free to, contact me and present that, because we are looking, for ways to spend some of the money that, we have accumulated for reserves. The merger, the date isn't official yet because we're waiting on the Rotary International Board to vote, but the proposed start date of the new district is July 1, 2029. So Jack Colamaria follows me as district governor, and then Susan Wilkinson will follow him. And then Susan will be the last district governor. After that, we'll have the new district. So, we're looking forward to it. And I think it's going to end up being a really good thing in the long run because I believe that there's strength in numbers. I love that there's so many people on this call, but when you look at our average in-person Rotary Club in the district now, there's not, like I remember in the old days when we had clubs that were, 250 members in the district, and it's not like that anymore. I'd love to know, John, how many people in your club since it's the largest one in the world.
Yeah, we have close to 1,000.
Wow. Wow. I don't even know how you manage that, but that's amazing. So I'm gonna have to come down there and visit.
Please.
So, I think that I don't know, was anybody in Taipei? Raise your hand if you were in Taipei. So I joke around that my husband's been, Rotary adjacent for 37 years. But he came to Taipei with me and he came to a lot of the sessions. And when we went to the session where our new Rotary International President Yinka got up and spoke. My husband actually walked out of that session and he said, you know what? He goes, that is the best Rotary message I have heard in 37 years.
Yeah.
So, I'm excited I'm excited that, he's such a good spokesperson for Rotary. Because I can tell you, if he got my husband to say that, it means a lot. So I think that, when you look at, Yinka's history in Rotary and the ability, to build Rotary that he's demonstrated, that hopefully, that'll rub off on the rest of us. And, Rotary is not going to look the same as it did, even 10 years ago. But I think it's, change is a good thing and it's going to be for the better in the long run. So, but I really appreciate, the opportunity to speak to you guys. And that's about all I kind of wanted to say. And I'll stick around for as long as you want for questions. So.
Thank you, District Governor Penny. And I may have to leave any minute because they're expecting another earthquake in a minute. So just to explain to those in the room, because many of them are still new to Rotary, and we need to educate them on Rotary. But a club, even a virtual club, reports to a district. And I was in District 7910 in Massachusetts, USA, prior to this, and you guys have been supportive of us for 5 years. We need to report to a district. It's 7910 as our district, but every district governor since we charted has been extremely supportive of what we do.
Yeah, and just so they know, the structure above the district are zones. So every district is part of a zone, and then the zone reports to Rotary International.
Okay, great. So, and I'm going to open the questions in just a second. But Penny, this club was actually formed 5 years ago because Rotary needed us. There was no club like us in Rotary that was advocating for people with disabilities. To be honest with you, 5 years ago and still today, Rotary is not accessible in many different ways. They have club meetings where there are stairways that people have to get up. We actually have 2 members that were kicked out of their Rotary who are polio survivors, who couldn't go to the meetings because of stairways. But the bottom line is that was why we were formed. And one of the things when we started this club was to try to help Rotary guide them to be more accessible in many ways. We gotten into so many other projects since then that's kind of been lost. I'm sorry for my Boston accent. Let me mention just one thing. We have a member Manuela, who was here from Colombia, who actually spoke at the convention, she formed a RILA for deaf students.
I heard about that.
And
yeah.
I'd like to talk to you about that to see if we can kind of have her talk to the RILA people here in the district to see if we can do something similar. That would be great because we can start showing all of Rotary, that RILA needs to be accessible. So
and Ken, I think I mentioned to you, right, that the district just purchased for the district's and clubs use the closed captioning device that and I apologize. I don't know if it's Diane or Diana.
Angie was
Angie. Okay.
Yeah.
Why that was okay.
And she's in the room, I think.
Is she? Okay.
Yeah.
So we just purchased that closed captioning device, and for familiar with tax issues, I had it shipped to a state that has no tax, which is adjacent to us. So
Okay.
it's been delivered. So that'll be back in the district next week and available for clubs to use. But
Okay. Great. That's super. So Penny, everybody in this room, almost, probably at least 90% of them have some focus on disability advocacy on a global level. And I welcome people to raise your hand to ask Penny a question. I think we need to get back to that mission of trying to work with a Rotary to become more accessible. And in many ways, we can't name a project, I don't think, in Rotary that needs to be more accessible than it is right now. And even to welcome people. Angie has her hand up. Angie, go ahead. We try to keep your each patient who talks, since there's so many people in this room, and we only have so much time to kind of limit your conversations. But Angie, I know you're very passionate about this topic. Angie, where are you?
she's on mute.
Angie, you're muted. Angie is, I think she describes herself as hard of hearing, but she's had an implant. Angie, are you there? I'm not sure where she went.
She's still there, but she's on mute.
Angie, you got to unmute. She's probably looking at the captions. Okay. So, I mean, some of the cases too, we just need to educate people a little more.
Sorry, it's different on a phone. I can't get to my buttons to unmute myself. I apologize. So, dear Penny, thank you. And you remember me, right, from coming up to Massachusetts?
Yeah, I actually was not at the RLI that you were at.
Oh, you weren't. Okay.
No,
I thought you were.
no,
Okay.
but Johnny spoke very highly of you, so.
Okay. And thank you for ordering the device. So my question is related to how, well, several. Number one thing you could do for us, for our club, and we are in the district, but remember, our community is not really located in the district.
Right.
So I wondered if you could help us with some kind of things that expand us within Rotary International. One of the first things I'd like to know is if you can help us be located and identified on the Rotary International website, because right now there's only really a geographic search engine. And we can't figure out, actually, last Monday, several clubs and I who were E-clubs, there was a lady named Angela Lopez. I don't even know which club she's from, but she's from one of the many, we understand from AI searching, 700 E-clubs in Rotary, but we can't find that information on Rotary International website.
Yeah.
We
actually,
can't be located on Rotary International website. We aren't highlighted like an action group. How can you help us as a cause-based club have people find us?
Right. We actually talked about that recently at the steering committee meeting, and we've gone to we're putting together a thing to go to the, Marty Hellman, who's our, current director, and the RI staff to try to get that corrected, because, and it's not just the RI website, but it's also if you try to search in like the Club Locator app. Are you familiar with the Club Locator app? There's an issue with that too. So that was actually brought to our attention, and we're trying to get that corrected, but it's getting to the right people at RI and then getting them to, take the steps to do the computer programming necessary to get it corrected.
And then the other question that I would have is, because you're saying there's a pot of money available to help within the district. If we, let's say, propose something that helps within the district, really anything that we do could be beneficial to the district. So I wondered if we might be able to have a different criteria than that, because how can we benefit something that's, in Massachusetts or potentially in Rhode Island?
When I say benefit the district, it's more about benefiting Rotary, like in general,
Okay.
right? That also benefits, the clubs in this area. So, my, recommendation is if you have something that you'd like to propose, and you need funding for, and it's a benefit to Rotary or a benefit, to your club and to, you know, just in general, feel free to propose it, because right now we're looking at anything and everything. And we did remove, just so you know, there were restrictions on how much money we could spend out of the special purpose fund, and we've removed those restrictions. So, we were trying to make it so that we couldn't spend the whole fund, right? One governor couldn't spend the whole fund, but since we're going to be merging and we know we have excess money, we've removed the restrictions. That being said, we're still very, we're very economically, conscious about making sure the money's spent for a good use, right? So we're not gonna blow it all on, you know, travel or something like that, right? So, but we're open to any and all proposals. So if you have something that you want to propose, especially the district realizes that your club is unique and different from the rest of the district. That's why we were willing to give you the money to use for online advertising instead of the signs, right? So we're willing to make accommodations and, come up with different ideas because your club is so unique and special compared to the rest of the clubs.
Okay. Yeah, and I think accessibility might be in both the digital and physical spaces, might be one of our ways that we could benefit all clubs, all physical clubs and all digital clubs in Rotary.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you.
We got a lot of work to do in that area. So, Penny, Bob, I'm going to turn you over to Nisha in a minute. Nisha is from India. And by the way, I joined the Peace Action Group. But also Nisha, her expertise is mental health. Bob Anthony just wrote to me yesterday and wants to work. If you know Bob Anthony, he's in Wellesley Group. He's the head of the Mental Health Action Group. So hopefully we'll be working with that action group. Nisha?
Yes, I'm glad to do that. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Hi, I'm Nisha from India. So there were 2-3 things in my mind. One thing is, could disability inclusion become a cross-cutting priority across Rotary's global projects rather than a standalone initiative? That is one thing. And the second thing is, what would it take for Rotary to develop a global disability inclusion strategy, an international strategy? And another thing is, about a disability leadership fellowship to, promote and develop leaders with a disability across the world and include them in, Rotary's different projects. So the inclusion becomes a natural part of Rotary's all, projects and strategies.
Yeah, I don't know what it takes to start a fellowship, but I will find out, because I'm just taking that as a note here, because that's actually a great idea. It's when you talk about inclusion, right? So unfortunately in the U.S., the term DEI, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion, has become very controversial. And we've got coming up in September. Every year they do zone training in September or, early October. And it's training for all of the leadership coming in. So, upcoming governors, you know, um, committee chairs, that type of thing. And there was a lot of controversy over this year's zone because it looked at first like they were removing the DEI sessions. So, we need to, kind of spread the message, right? Starting with us, right? So as soon as we heard that, it looked like they were going to remove the DEI sessions, we went to the zone, and as a district, we said, if you don't have the DEI sessions, we're not coming. And the district that we're merging with did the same thing. If you don't have the DEI sessions, we're not coming. And just like that, they were back into the schedule. So I think that we need to, make sure that we keep doing things like that and we're standing up for, what we believe in and, recognizing that, DEI means a lot more than, just what people traditionally think of it, right? So it includes making sure that things are accessible for, the hearing impaired, mobility impaired. My father was blind, right? So, the sight impaired. So we need to make sure that it's top of mind for us and for Rotary, going forward. And sometimes you just need to, build from the ground up, but, remind the leadership at Rotary International every chance we get how important this is to us. And we did that when it came to zone because it took them less than 24 hours once we said, well, if that's the case, we're not coming, to put that back into the program.
Very, very good. Thank you for doing that. I'm gonna next is Florence is from Florida. She's a very strong and good advocate for people who are polio survivors. Florence.
Hi, Penny. Nice to
Hello.
meet you. I'm looking at your sign behind you, and in big white squares, it says "End Polio Now." Little yellow letters, hashtag End Polio. To me, as a polio survivor, well and alive, living with a physical disability, that being I use a motorized chair, it is offensive. And I'm going to get in trouble, Ken, I know this. But this is very offensive. You're discriminating against us. And you're saying we don't matter. What matters is getting rid of the disease, which is good. I agree with that. However, we're here. And somehow I would love to see Rotary International acknowledge we're here. We're not going anywhere, except when God calls us, but we're here. And we're going to make noise, be it nice or be it nasty, but we're here. That's number one. Number two, we have Polio Day coming up, October 24th. I think that's the date. You said there was monies. Would there be money for that? Can we request money? We need funds.
Yeah, the district has funds available for projects. So if you have a project that evolves around, Polio Plus Day, we'd be happy to, present the proposal to the trustees.
Okay.
And the trustees will meet again. So the trustees only meet 4 times a year. They will meet again before that day, but we could also, do a special email vote if necessary.
And let me ask you something further about end polio now being offensive to me.
Yeah, I appreciate that perspective because honestly, I never thought of it that way. So I appreciate, hearing, your perspective. I have a good friend of mine who's also a polio survivor, and he's never, kind of put it in that perspective before.
Right. Would there be any way of virtually us, the polio chapter, addressing the higher ups of Rotary International to let them know how offensive this is, that they have to include the survivor, not just those that haven't gotten the disease yet? And by the way, I know of a woman who got polio from the vaccine. So that's not 100%. But it was just, I mean, really, every time I see it, end polio now, end polio. Well, I'm here. How
Yeah.
about helping us?
I can definitely
Disability.
talk to our zone director, Marty Hellman, which if she has not met with your club, I think that would be a good thing. So Marty was the trustee for the foundation, prior to being a director for Rotary International. So that's definitely something that we can take a look at. Where is your club in Florida?
Well, no,
I'm in South Florida. We have two, one in Western South Florida, Pembroke Pines area, and one in Fort Lauderdale, which is far from me. That's an hour. I
Yeah.
met with the president of the Pembroke Pines Club a couple of years ago, and it was not convenient for me in terms of time-wise, because I have
Yeah.
home attendants that come in the afternoon. They drive me, but I think they met in the morning. They couldn't change the time. So unfortunately, I
Yeah.
couldn't go.
The reason I ask is I'm going to, so the Rotary District 6890, which is in Florida, which is a different zone, but that's kind of like the Central Florida area. They're having a foundation dinner in November that I'm going to be attending. That's why I was wondering if you were anywhere near or close to that.
Well, I think I'm an hour and a half from Orlando.
Okay.
so she's a member of WDA,
Yeah.
Penny. Actually, and our club president is also in Florida and a polio survivor.
Yeah.
So thank you
I was just wondering because, when I was going to be down there, if
yeah,
there was some way we could connect, if she was physically close enough that,
yeah.
I'm
So
an hour and a half away.
about an hour and a
yeah,
half.
It's closer.
she has mobility limitations.
Yeah,
So,
no, I know. I was thinking if I could go to her, if it was close enough.
Well, you can also visit our president too. So thank you, Florence. What the point is, we've tried to make a point to Rotary that to focus on survivors in addition to eradication.
Yeah.
And polio's Rotary's answer has always been, well, we're really focusing on eradication right now. So that oftentimes the survivors feel left out of the whole thing. So our next is Jacqueline, who's a Rotarian from Egypt. Mucho. I'm sorry, Spanish. Many projects that she's working on there. So, Jacqueline.
Yeah, thank you, President Khan, for your kind invitation. Welcome, District Governor Penny. My name is Jacqueline Wilson. My background is a physician. I am the past president and the founder of the first e-club in my district, 2451 Egypt. I want to discuss just 3 points in a hurry. The first point is regarding the people with disability. Thank you, President Khan. Really, we can spread the many words about the legislation of disabled persons in our countries. And now we are proud to have the first club for deaf in Egypt. It is not mine, but I am proud to have such a progress in our country regarding the disabled persons. Regarding the peace, thank you so much for the Peace Poll initiative and for Rotary Action Group of Peace. Really, I'm very excited to be a part of it because I was assigned for the second time to be the chair of the Peace Fellowship program in Egypt. Really, our country exposed to many risks because we are in the center of many wars and many challenges, and we are a part of it. We cannot deny that. So the promotion of peace is an essential role for Rotarians here in Egypt. Thank you for establishing or launching a chapter about that. And I'm ready to do any role here in Arab countries and especially in Egypt. The last point, I would like to thank you for your possibility to share in our projects. Here, we can share our ideas and our proposals regarding the caring of elders here. It's a part of disabled also because we try to move them from disability to ability, from marginalization to be centered care or something like this. I hope we can do that. We have an initiative here called Wise to Rise to care for elders. And we search, up till now, we search for a partner club and we can introduce it to you. So if you like to spread our ideas, we need capacity building and we need to take care of the caregivers and try to educate and attract the attention of the whole people here regarding the care of elders. Thank you so much. This is what I want to go.
We actually were trying to work with Jacqueline at one point, I think with the seniors, right? There was a gentleman in one of the clubs, I forget where, that was very interested in working with her on that. So we were going to see if we could do a joint district project on that. So I can't say enough about Jacqueline. She's just a wonderful person. A great big heart. Jeremy Warner is next. Jeremy's a charter member of this club and from Indianapolis. Hopefully I'm right on that. Jeremy?
Yes, Indianapolis is correct.
Yay.
It's good to see everybody, and thank you. Thank you, Penny, for joining us today, for taking the time, and for your support and for standing up for those DEI programs. That's extremely important. One of the things, I built a business around the concept of the fact that accessibility was regularly left out of the DEI conversation. And thank you for acknowledging that it is more than what regularly or initially gets thought of when DEI comes up. I guess I'm curious to know, with us in the district, even though we're spread out all over the world, how much have the other clubs in the district taken advantage of having us to be able to talk about how you're more accessible and welcoming to their particular community, their particular club, the part of the district that they serve, and how they're promoting that as Rotary beyond just the club, but into the community. Yes, by making certain that every project they address is accessible, but more than that, recognizing that it is crossing so many demographics, whether we're talking about aging, we're talking about polio, we're talking about cognitive disabilities, intellectual and developmental disabilities, sensory disabilities, all those things. How much of a emphasis is being put on taking that accessible hospitality approach and message beyond just, well, in the United States, we have the ADA that says you have to be ADA compliant, but looking at how that's more than checking boxes and actually doing it in a way that sends messages that says, we want you included and we want you to be part of our community for as long as possible. Whether your disability is one that you've had since birth or one that's crept up as you began to get into aging or trauma.
Right. So at the district level, we're trying to do everything we can to make sure that every event that we have is inclusive for everyone, no matter what the disability is, or, it's harder at the club level because, when you talk to Rotary International, the way that they say things are supposed to work is that, Rotary is the club level, and then it's supposed to flow up, which we all know, in reality is not really the way that it works. You get a lot of pushback from clubs with the district trying to tell them what to do. I have one club in the district who has not scheduled their visit, right? So, as district governor, I'm required to visit every club in the district. They won't give me a date. So, some clubs just, they don't want to be involved in the district. They want to do their little local thing, and that's it. But, all we can do at the district level is to just keep trying. And, one of the things that, we're working on kind of at the district level is, so we're going to have this captioning device. We have some other, things available that, can make things easier for the clubs if they're having an event. So we're going to do a newsletter article and say, hey, we have this available. But we also, stress at every event that we have and that we know about, even if it's at the club level, is that they make sure that they try to make the event as accessible as possible and to consider, every aspect of inclusion when they're setting up their events. And I think if you just keep pushing the message over and over, it's like anything else, right? When you look at, the way life was, 25 years ago versus now, if people keep hearing the message over and over, eventually it's going to sink in. Unfortunately, it's never quick enough for a lot of us. But, that's what we just have to keep trying to spread the message.
Thank you. I guess the two things that I would say to that would be, one, if the idea is that it's supposed to be from the club level up, if that's what Rotary International is where they're coming from, then I would say it's all the more important for us, for our club, if our mission was to make Rotary more accessible, it's all the more important for us within our own district to be engaging with all of the other clubs. I think it's even more important for you as the district governor to talk with other DGs about engaging us with their districts so that that message is coming from the club up to Rotary International,
Right.
from the club level.
Yeah, and I do have a group chat with all of the other governors in our zone and in the zone that covers all of Canada. So if we could put together some type of a, quick, outline or, summary of, inviting those governors to join a meeting, I'd be happy to do that. I think that's a great idea. We could also, put something in the district newsletter that, kind of talks about your club and trying to get members from other clubs within our district to learn more about you and what you're doing and to join a meeting.
Thank you. I think anything that gives us the opportunity to educate and opens those doors for that education,
Yeah.
I think is
as
huge.
you know, all of the other clubs in the district, all have speakers at times. So, individually, if any member of your club would like to be a speaker at those clubs, a lot of the clubs offer Zoom options. So you could speak, like my club, for instance, we offer a hybrid meeting. So we can have a speaker come in by Zoom, and we're looking for speakers, all the time. So if anybody wants to be a speaker, I actually had a Rotarian in the district last week and volunteer to work on updating the speaker bureau list that's on the district website. So if anybody, I put my email in the chat, if anybody would like to be included on that speaker bureau, I just need, your name and a summary of what your talk would be about, and we can get that updated. And then we'll have all of the clubs in the district go to that, list to, book speakers. That way we could get you some more visibility that way too.
Penny and I have been in Rotary the same number of years, and I've visited your club in Westford many times. It's always been one of my favorite and most progressive clubs I found in the district. So, I wonder, when will the merger happen? Is it going to be during your term with the other district?
No. So it's official July 1, 2029. Although Rotary International, the board of directors has not voted on that yet. They're going to vote at their fall board meeting, but that's the proposed date.
So I know Diana is active. Diana is actually one of our founding past district governor of this club, and she's also our club advisor, and she's active in the zone.
Yes.
I guess I should talk with her, but it would be great if we could do some sort of accessibility webinar for the zone.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea, which whether they do that at so there's monthly meetings of all the governors of the zone. So I think what would be great if we could get you scheduled at one of the monthly meetings of the district governors.
Okay. We'll talk about that offline. And again, I urge anybody else who wants, you all have expertise in different areas of disabilities. If there's something you'd like to say to Penny before we close down, please raise your hand. I wish I could go around and introduce you to each person in this room, but it would be time consuming. Again, let me pass it now on to Angie, who you know. Angie's you consider yourself hard of hearing? Is that how you describe yourself, Angie?
I have hearing loss.
Okay, there you go.
Because unfortunately, some of the deaf community who are capital D deaf culture and signers, they overlap. That's the right word. They overlap with many of us with hearing loss, and I'm just a regular English speaker, whereas so many people will say, oh, you're hard of hearing, I need to get an interpreter, before they even ask what I need. So it's kind of funny. I'm sure others run into this issue as well. But this got me thinking, first of all, Penny, were you on the call that was recently had? Johnny was there on the DEI call for the district.
I was not.
You were not on that either. Okay.
Yeah.
I can tell you that I was on it, and I see a big lack of accessibility as part of DEI. And I want to note that I'm actually in a position funded by President Biden, because that's when I got it. I'm still here, thankfully. But President Biden included another letter in DEI. He included the A for accessibility. And just including that got everybody's attention. I would ask if you would consider raising that issue. Just putting that big A out there, because like Jeremy says, and it's true, you know, they can say, oh, we used a microphone today, or we used the hearing system. Therefore, we're ADA accessible and we met everybody's needs. And oh boy, is that not true. As you see from looking around the world, we all have different amazing needs. But unfortunately, the DEI community will look at a person who maybe arrives in a wheelchair and is able to use the building and say, gee, everybody's included here. We've got our person from the disability community, where I'm sitting in the audience and I can't hear. So I would urge you that include the A all the time. A. That gets people thinking accessibility, and it gets people thinking about the array of needs. Another thing I'd like to suggest is and I was talking about on that call, how I get offended when things are sent out from Rotary International, these beautiful videos and things like that, and they're not accessible. They're not captioned. All they have to do is caption every video that comes from Rotary International. And I see a lot that are coming out from Yinka that are, but then I saw the proceedings that came out, because they're recorded in long chunks, they're not captioned, that came out from the convention. I'm sorry, did I say that? From the RI convention in Taipei. And I pulled one up to try and look at them, and I was like, oh, gee, it's not captioned. So, you know, I feel it brings in this visceral feeling where I'm not included as soon as I just click on a button. And then I hear people worried about DEI, or we DEI this, and DEI is really different to us as a club, because you can see the varieties and flavors of people. And I think it's a big US issue, but in other countries, you have gender issues that are more important, caste issues, not more important, I'd say more needed in those countries. You know, and in some countries, you know, even certain faiths and orientations, which are part of DEI, are even excluded from that whole country. So, like, I wish we'd get away from the DEI focus in some respects and put it on the ability focus, is what I call it. Do people have the ability in that environment to function, do things, to be peaceful creatures? Really? So anyway, so another project could be the RI website and everything that's sent out. And that means little articles. It means links to articles. Because Ken can tell you, I'd go through so many things that come from the magazine or something like that, and there'd be some fellowship advertised. And I follow the trails, and I get to a point where I can't hear it digitally. So I need the captions, and I need correct closed captions. And so many people are in that space, not even just people with hearing loss, but others with other disabilities or preferences or needs need that. So the other thing I'd like to propose, and several of us are interested in making presentations at the convention next year, or at least proposing that we get a presentation there. Can we be tapped to make the Rotary Convention in Barcelona accessible? And were you there by any chance? Were you in Taipei?
Yes, I was in Taipei.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Did you see captions displayed in the meetings for the electronic presentation?
Or sign language interpreters either. So
No?
Well, those would have to be requested as accommodation, Kim, as I've expressed before. But if you didn't see closed caption, or not closed, it's just captions, it's called. If you didn't see captions displayed, then it wasn't truly accessible to everyone. And I would like to see us go overboard and say, let's not meet minimum standards. Let's be inclusive. For instance, Amy is working on inclusive education, and the best way of delivering material, verbal material, is to have the written component too, which means captions or the text. And the best way to do that is to display it at the front of the room right alongside so people can read the words of the person speaking, whether they have hearing loss, whether they have autism and they need that written visual component. There are so many disabilities that captions themselves really facilitate. Captions are also being talked about as the curb cut effect in the digital world. Now, do you know what the curb cut effect is, Penny?
No.
Okay, good. We have some great opportunities for education. Thank you. And that's a big thing in disability world. In other words, the curb cut effect came about when U.S. communities started putting in our curb cuts that you see in other places. Well, who uses the curb cuts besides the wheelchair users? The delivery man who's carrying the dolly from UPS, right? Or Amazon. The people with strollers. The people who have a hard time with steps and maybe they're in a cane. The skateboarders actually use them too. So they don't have to pop the curbs. But in other words, that putting in that accessible way rather than just the one way of the stairs or the curb, you know, brings in so many possibilities for other people to use that too. So as I mentioned, there are other users of captions as well, and that's why captions are the digital curb cut, basically.
Right.
So if
those programs are so scripted in advance that it would be easy for them to provide exactly, you know, what everybody is, presenting.
Awesome.
Because those presentations at the convention, and even like if you come to like our Pels, right? Everything is scripted in advance.
Well, and then you're right, that makes it easier. So if we could get into that as a project, if you could let us use some of those funds to help create it, I'm definitely going with my own funds, but I'd like for people like Jeremy and myself, who are accessibility experts, to make the whole event accessible and then make Rotary itself, RI, accessible.
Yeah, I wrote a note to talk to Marty about that too. See if there's some way we can get you in as consultants or something.
We're going to Barcelona, Penny, so we're coming there, and
I'm going too.
And we got a bunch of people going to be there. So we're past the hour, but I do want to get to a couple of the people who had their hands raised. Now, Kashif is from. Thank you, Angie. Kashif is from Pakistan. He's actually currently in Dubai, but Kashif is deaf and nonverbal. So I know you had your hand up, Kashif. I don't know if you want to type something in the chat or what. While he's doing that, I know Ted, and I want to make sure we focus on Kashif because he's an extremely good advocate. Kashif, is there something you want to put in the chat?
Yeah, so he did actually put a message in the chat. So his question is, how can Rotary move beyond promoting peace as an ideal and make peace, inclusion, and human dignity measurable outcomes of our service? So, I saw a quote recently that I kind of liked, and it talked about, you know, how do you know you're a real Rotarian, right? And it was something to the effect of when, service is not what you do, but who you are. It becomes who you are, and that's not an exact quote, but I really like that. And so interesting enough, when I was in Taipei, I went to a reception for Rotary alumni. I participated in a program called Group Study Exchange. So I'm considered a Rotary alumni. And traditionally, Rotary alumni are either Peace Scholars, the old ambassadorial scholars, or Group Study Exchange participants. So I went to this reception, and I'm still questioning how I got on the invite list, but there were maybe 50 people in the room. And included in the room were John Huco, the CEO of Rotary International, Yinka, and then the outgoing president, Francesco. So when John Huco got up and talked, the first words out of his mouth had to do with peace. And he talked about how there are so few peace grants approved. And I pulled him aside afterwards and I said, John, I've been trying to get a peace grant approved, and I've been told flat out by RI that they won't do it. And their issue with peace grants has to do with the measurability of the success. How do you, define success on a peace grant? It's easy if you're providing clean water for a village where 1,000 people live, right? There's a clear-cut measure of success, but it's so hard on a peace grant to measure success. But I found it interesting that literally that was the first thing that came out of his mouth was all about peace. So, it goes back to, we just need to keep, saying the words out loud, and eventually, hopefully, Rotary International and, other districts will catch up with us with delivering that message of peace.
I agree with you. I think I mentioned to you we're associated with a club in California. It's an E-club that's a Rotary Club of Peace or something like that. So we're hoping to do some joint projects with them at some point. I know, Ted, you had your hand up. I want to give you an opportunity. Ted is from California, and Ted is an educator with focuses on neurodiversity. Ted, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, well, good morning or good evening, everybody. The biggest thing that I've seen dealt with a lot is getting more tools to help those that are not clear about understanding or get a clear understanding of what, how can I put this? What things they have in front of them. You know what I mean? Just getting a clear understanding of what it is, getting a breakdown. Some may not understand a lot about what's going on in Rotary, and it's just getting it to get a clear understanding from their point of view. I have a lot of people that ask, what it is, and can they get a clear understanding, because we also have the intellectual disability as well, that those that do not understand a lot of stuff are having people take the time with them to break all of these things down so that they could get a clear understanding of what Rotary does. And not just that, everybody's comments were really, really good and really on point, because those are some of the things that we're facing on today, and especially in the intellectual disability community as well, getting a clear understanding of everything that's going on. A lot of them don't know how to access it. A lot of them, from what I see, never been really taught how to use a computer or any of these things, and so very passionate about the educational. There's a lot of young men and young women that have a hard time understanding certain things, and it's really cool to home in on those things because breaking it down for them so they can be able to understand it and be able to grow even more, that's the key for them to be able to grow even more, because now it's harder for them to grow if they, everything keeps being not simple for them. So our job, I know, is to make it more simpler for them, more understanding for them, and just more support in that for them, to understand, our young people to understand, because now is the time. They get so frustrated. I've seen it for myself. With not understanding certain things, and breaking it down for them is the key. So, Penny, I thank you for what you're doing, and we got to keep pushing, not just for intellectual, but for all disabilities. Keep pushing for them, because that's why we do it for. This is what I do it for. I, push for them, because they don't have, most of the children we go around and deal with don't have access to a lot of these things. So our job is to, try and help it, make it simpler for them, and help them get it and help them understand it is the key. And so more tools like that to help them understand um, their assignments, their homework. It's so hard for them. And I'm speaking on their behalf because I see it. I see so many people have difficult time with these things, and so homing in not just on this but everything. I love it. I'm interested in it because we get to learn those things and bring it back and show our young people that they can do these things. That's the thing, defying the odds, letting them know that they can do this even though they have some obstacles in their way, letting them know that they can do it. Even though the roadblock is in front of them, you can also go over the roadblock and be able to be successful. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think education on both sides is important, right? So, what you're doing, educating, those that are struggling, but we also need to educate those who aren't about what the struggles are and how important that is. I'll be totally honest. So this year, I horrified myself because I realized for the first time that sign language is not the same everywhere. And I literally brought it up at a district meeting. I said, okay, am I the only idiot in the room that didn't realize that people that are speaking sign language in the United States is not the same as someone speaking sign language in Japan? And I am even more horrified at the amount of people that went, it's not. So a lot of it's got to do with education, right? And, I consider myself well educated about, disabilities and accessibility and inclusion. And I literally learned that within the last 6 months. And I don't even remember now how I realized it, but the education part is so important on both sides.
Absolutely, absolutely. And sign language is a big topic.
Yeah.
And
you know what? And we all need to be open and honest enough to admit things like that, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm willing to admit it, that I just learned that and I felt like an idiot.
5 years ago, I've been in college for 5 years with this club. People like Ted and everybody else in this room has been educating me because, that's part of the whole process. We have another question from Satithi. Satithi, can you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, so a very good evening to all of you. And it's so nice to see people from all around the world in this conversation. It's a very interesting conversation because so many things to learn as well as to know from the country perspective. And I'm so happy to see Ken and Mark. They are my friends. I've been with the group for a very long time, so it's very happy to see. But I have too many questions. I'm very sorry for that. So thank you so much, Penny, for giving us such a brief information about the peace poll. So nice to know that so many languages the peace poll has come. And also some interesting thing that I saw was about dogs. I am seeing because a lot of innovative and new things are being introduced right now in Rotary, which is very, very charming. So I would like to know more about this initiative where dogs are also using as ambassadors of, and they are also giving some kind of messages, which is very, very, very precious. And thirdly, coming to the issue of disability, because I've also worked on the disability issue for a very short time. And in my country, because I'm from India, we have in our government a lot of schemes which pertains to disability issue. But as you know, disability people who have disability, they suffer from a lot of discrimination. And especially if you're a woman and you are disabled, you face more discrimination. And a lot of people are not aware about this issue. So I'd like to know, though I see in Rotary, a lot of people are doing service projects on disability issue, which is a one-time thing. But to sustain these projects, as well as to focus more on advocacy, especially I would love to know, because there's so many countries here representing representatives of countries, and they have their governments, and how these governments are, working, they are pro-friendly towards the disability issue. So I would be more interested to know that. And I would like to know what is Rotary International's future plan of action regarding advocacy, because though advocacy maybe it's happening, but I don't see much of it. But so I would like to know more about it, and also about the animal thing. It's very interesting. Thank you so much for showing that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that those are, points we definitely should speak with, Director Marty Hellman about. And I am going to, talk to her, try to get a time for her scheduled to speak to your club. Because I think that she needs to hear it directly from you. But I know that, Rotary has been using social media. There's a social Facebook page called the Kennel Club, which is a group of Rotarians that are specifically using therapy dogs and that type of thing to not just advance the Rotary message, but to, kind of make people, feel more included. But that's a grassroots effort. It's not coming from Rotary International. We definitely need to try to get Rotary International to be more focused. They have their 7 avenues of service and they want everything to fit into that, but they really need to have this overall more umbrella of inclusion, right? That includes not just the avenues of service, but make sure that our programs are accessible for everybody.
Penny, we're well past the hour, and I appreciate you being here. I just want to point out one other question in the chat from Neil. Neil is our newest member. He's from the United States. Missouri? Neil, is that correct? Am I right?
Michigan. Yeah.
Oh, okay. He's up in that area. So he says, how is Rotary International taking advantage of social media to educate the world about different disabilities and barriers that are faced with on an everyday level? Bring the education to the people, or they won't be aware?
You know what? That's a good question. And I don't know necessarily if I'm qualified to answer for Rotary International. But I know that as far as, the districts and the different clubs, we definitely can do a better job at that. For instance, with the captioning device, for instance, one of the things that, as soon as I have that physically in my hands, we're going to, do a story about why we purchased it. and how we need to make Rotary more accessible. But I'm open to, promoting on the district page more. And do you guys have your own Facebook page?
We have in Club Runner, we do, yes.
But what about Facebook? Like, do you have a social
Facebook.
media?
Oh, yeah, we do have Facebook also, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna need to. I'll double check to make sure I'm following that. But
I'll send all that to you.
yeah, if we can, share things, through the district page and make them, what I see happening with, especially with the Facebook pages, is, we've got a limited audience, but what a lot of other pages are doing is they are sharing, what other Rotary pages put on their pages, right? So we're encouraging people to, cross share. So if we can, have something, from your page that we share on our page, then, the district, that's in, Western Mass or New York, they might also share it. So Angie, I did see your question, and I would actually love your help in writing that story, if that's okay. And Johnny was really good at using AI to write the stories. If you read the district newsletter last year, I learned that most of his stuff was done using ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Which is great, but you need the base information to tell chat what to write.
So, Penny, I'm going to provide you with a summary from today's meeting. So
yeah, if I could get a copy of like the chat and everything, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll get that all to you. So again, I much appreciate. And by the way, we're going to have a speaker on the 24th who's going to talk about the fact that AI is actually not disability friendly. So we're going to tackle that topics. So it was Mark Wafer who said to me, Mark Wafer is the husband of Valerie Wafer, who was a vice president of Rotary, also the head of the DEI committee. But he said to me and he was one of the founding people of this club, and he's deaf. He said Rotary has the greatest opportunity in the world to spread the message about disabilities. And I 100% agreed with him at that point, and I still 100% agree with him today. But we haven't done the right communications to get Rotary to start thinking that way. I know Angie is pushing for an eighth pillar or an eighth focus in Rotary, and that's disability.